So I've heard a lot of conversation about starters. We obviously have. We're getting ready for training camp coming up here in just a few weeks. By the way, 8 open dates for training camp, up from 6 last year. They were in the Greenbrier. I'm happy with 8 open dates. There should still always be something that is open for everybody to enjoy. I know a lot of teams are going to no open practices at all and all that other stuff. I'm glad that there's 8 out there. So I'm happy with that. You could always say, well, it could always be more. At least you got something. So I'm fine with that.
Enjoy your 90-minute practice.
Will there be autographs at the end?
Yes.
So then they'll have their night. By the way,
will there be puppies?
Now you got me on.
I believe there will be puppies again.
Daryl's going to get me on a whole nother thing. Daryl's going to get me on a whole nother thing. I'm going to tell you right now. Training camp is for kids to try to get open training camp practices are for kids to try to get autographs. That's what it's there for. When I was a kid and I went to Belichick training camp back in the day, which my God. And I remember they had like a joint practice with the Panthers, which was open. It was an open practice. And we got a couple of, because they had 2 days, but the second one was in the stadium. So we started in Berea, and then we went over to Old Municipal. It was awesome. My parents took me and my buddy Eric Perry. Awesome day. That was the birth of me being a football guy, and I didn't even realize it at the time. So that, I remember I got autographs at the stadium. I did not get autographs in Berea. But for the most part there, the only time that the fans really get a chance, and I mean, there's a couple of football guys in there. The only time you get a chance to get engaged is when they go team. You don't want them out there for 2.5 hours in the hot-ass sun because the parents don't want to be sitting there waiting for 2.5 hours in the hot-ass sun before their kids get a chance to get an autograph.
Toughen these kids up, Ken.
Hell no. So you want a 90-minute practice? I thank the Cleveland Browns for a 90-minute practice if I have kids and I'm taking them to training camp.
Well, I thank them as well.
I can get in, I can get out, I can get my kids' autograph. We can go to Olive Garden there along the highway and get the hell out of Dodge if we want to, and everybody's happy. Yeah, what else you got to say to me, Daryl? Enjoy your 90-minute practice. 90 minutes more than what some other franchises are offering their fans.
You have to have tickets. They open up on next Thursday at 10 a.m. to the public.
Got to get them tickets because, you can't just go running in there.
Season ticket holders get a 24-hour advance.
Ooh. Well, that's what were we going to say, Daryl? I'm sorry. You were going to say something else?
You won't see much 11 on 11 early on. Because remember, they do the whole ramp-up thing.
Oh, yeah.
And no, I will say that, all sarcasm aside, the one thing I am a little disappointed with.
What?
No open practices past August 4th. That is a very long time before the week one opener against the Cincinnati Bengals.
But they do like 2... They have like 2 times where they go for like a week. They're gone.
I know.
What are you going to do?
I know it's out of their control. I'm just saying, though, that is a very long time to go.
Until they still have 4 quarterbacks by August 4th.
Yes.
That's how it's done. That's how it's done on a vacation show. That's the way it works there, Owen. Well done. Well, you're having a good week. You're having a real good week. Because I heard Marcus Spears yesterday. He's talking about Joe Flacco's his sense of calm. It's going to make the Browns quarterback decision very tough.
The only thing that gives me pause is the fact that Joe Flacco is going to give them a sense of calm with his presence. His obviously veteran, and he's played there before in playoff games, which is going to make it, to me, very hard for them to make a decision on one of those other 3 guys if Joe just shows them any semblance of being able to command this offense and put the ball where it needs to be.
That's Marcus Spears, NFL Live on ESPN. So this has been a big discussion the last couple of weeks here. Are they going to carry 4 quarterbacks into camp? How on earth could you carry 4 quarterbacks into camp? And we had Mike Florio on a couple of days ago. Daryl's champing at the bit to say something here. Let me say this. Florio was on a couple of days ago. He thinks that Kenny Pickett is trade bait. Daryl, go ahead and say what you were about to say, because I think I got something else, but I want you to get it out there. Go ahead.
I'm shocked that people are twisting in the wind trying to figure out if the Browns are going to open camp with 4 quarterbacks. Yes, they are. It's a 4-man race. Like, since when is this news? Why is everyone surprised by this? Now, do I feel it's the most efficient way to figure this thing out? No, but I mean, this is almost like American Idol when it comes to this year's quarterback room. I call it the island of misfit toys. You've got Joe Flacco, who's in the twilight of his career. You've got Kenny Pickett, who played some of the most god-awful football you'll ever see. And believe me, we've seen a lot of god-awful football here, so maybe he will fit in well. And then you got one guy who can barely see over the line of scrimmage, And the other guy, the only reason he's here is because they just threw their hands up and said, well, he's there. Why not? Let's bring him in and see if we find something. Like, it really is the island of misfit toys in that quarterback room.
Daryl, you just said they're going to have 90-minute practices, 60-minute practices.
They
right?
can knock it out.
How are they going to figure out who the quarterback between four of them? If you're only practicing, they get 15 minutes a piece during practice.
You want to know why? This isn't going to be your old customary traditional training camp here where they're working on one primary field.
It's going to look like American Gladiators.
They're going to split this thing up. They're going to be running dual fields this year.
Actually, you're probably right. Well, hey, you know what? That's more for people to see because sometimes you get stuck on the wrong side of the field and they're way over there.
So guess what? Instead of your 90-minute practice,
are we split squatting?
So hell, you're getting 180 minutes of practice,
right?
In 90 minutes.
Boom.
You know what that's called, Ken Carmen?
Making the most of your time.
Efficiency.
Yeah. You got to think of this logically, though. I heard Mike Florio say Kenny Pickett's trade bait.
For what?
Well, this is what Daryl. You're going to take me. You're going to take me there. You're going to beat me there before I take you there. Who on earth loses their quarterback during training camp and starts? I got to get Kenny Pickett for this franchise. I want to know that. Joe Flacco was still. How long was Joe Flacco a free agent? It wasn't forever, but they traded for Kenny Pickett before they got Joe Flacco because it seemed that they were waiting around to figure out what was going on, maybe with Kirk Cousins. I don't know how much you might have believed or disbelieved that. I don't know.
Well, but Joe Flacco was a free agent in November in 2023.
So Joe Flacco was out there. Who's calling for Joe? Like, I got to have Joe for this football team. Now, guys, I know we think the world of Joe in this city. We went to the playoffs with Joe. Think logically. Who's calling for the 40-year-old QB? Maybe more people than Kenny Pickett. I'll grant you that, but still not that many people. The Browns are saying, you just said it yourself. It's the island of misfit toys or whatever you just said. You got 4 quarterbacks. I have no quarterbacks on this football team from how long? What am I getting for Kenny Pickett? A 7th-round pick?
You know who the Browns are going to get calls on?
Who?
Shedeur Sanders.
Okay, well, they might get calls on Shedeur, and you're not going to give him up. So you're not giving him up. You're damn sure not giving Dillon Gabriel. Who's making this wild trade that makes me think I'm okay with letting this guy go when we don't have a quarterback? If somebody's willing to call me up and offer a 2nd-round pick for Kenny Pickett, I know there's a lot of fans that are going to make that trade, probably myself included.
First of all, that GM needs drug tested.
But if you were going to do that, if you're going to do something like that, wouldn't there be some pause going, well, you wanted him so bad, do you want to see what he has for your own football team? You'd probably just make that move. But nobody's calling in for 2nd-rounders or 3rd-rounders or even 4th-rounders and probably not even 5th-rounders at this point.
If you got
for
a
Kenny
6
Pickett.
for him, it'd be a miracle.
So I'd rather just, and if it's a 6th-round pick or certainly a 7th-round pick, I'd rather just see what he has for my own team. Are we not? Are we or are we not when we talk about Kenny Pickett? Well, you know, they're trying to turn him into our Sam Darnold or our Geno Smith or maybe even our Baker Mayfield, ironically. Have we not had discussed that ad nauseum already? So now I'm just going to trade that guy if I brought him in to see if he could be that guy for us. Joe Flacco, again, who's calling on a 40-year-old quarterback at that juncture? If they are calling for Shedeur Sanders, are they all calling for Dillon Gabriel? I'm the one that needs quarterbacks. I'm the one that needs good young quarterbacks. Why am I trading either one of these guys? So who's trading who? That's why I'm like, guys, unless somebody comes up with something that they really want him bad, I'm going in the season with 4 quarterbacks. My bigger question is what position group do I take from to put 4 quarterbacks on an active roster? And I want to ask Nathan about that at 9:01 because we always say, well, you can carry 4 quarterbacks. You carry 4 quarterbacks. I think we're starting to get used to that idea. But out of a 53-man roster, where am I picking from? Wide receiver room, you're already deathly thin there. DBs, is Jim Schwartz going to allow that? You always need a bunch of DBs. And hell, I can make you a case for just about everybody on this depth chart at the back end of that depth chart. Offensive line, it's much easier said than done. I know a lot of people don't care about offensive linemen, so they're more than willing to take away a backup somewhere. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a spot where we need any of these guys.
Your 53rd player on your roster is going to be the 4th quarterback.
Yes.
Which means you'll probably lose a back end of the roster special teams player, which that's usually a linebacker, maybe a DB, but that's what you're losing. You can't cut wide receiver. I don't know, tight end. Do they go with 2 tight ends instead of 3? Which I don't.
It's a 12 personnel offense. Why am I going to go with 2 tight ends instead of 3 all the time?
I was just about to say you can't do that.
I'm not being mean to you. I'm just saying, like Blake Whitehart who sounds like a wrestler.
Well, they've gotten creative in the past with putting guards out at tight end and fullback and things like that.
Yeah, but no, they're going to keep 3 tight ends on the roster. I was just throwing that out there facetiously.
I'm sorry.
They had Yoda Froholt play every position.
But the unit that will be hurt by keeping that fourth quarterback will be the special teams unit, because that 53rd guy on your roster is a special teams player.
I want to know from some of the listeners. 216-474-0092. We got Zach Meisel at 740. We're going to talk Guardians with him. I do have a question to ask about the Guardians coming up, that's for sure. But would you rather trade one of the quarterbacks or see what they got? Because be honest with yourself, what are you getting for any of these guys right now? You need quarterbacks. We're dying for quarterbacks here. We are looking for a messiah. Why would we want to trade any of them unless we could see what they got? Unless somebody is stupid out there and willing to offer us something that is not realistic. If it comes to a trade, I don't think that there's much of a trade market for any one of these 4 guys. I wouldn't want to trade Shedeur Sanders. I wouldn't want to trade Dillon Gabriel. I know there's some people that think that you're wasting away. They like Dillon Gabriel enough to try to draft him in the 3rd round. I don't want to trade Dillon Gabriel away. I'll see what he has. I don't want to trade Shedeur Sanders away. I'll see what he has. That's a flyer. Kenny Pickett, you traded a 5th-round pick in DTR for. They clearly like him somewhat. All right, fine. Because I don't think what team in the NFL is going to lose their starter or anybody, backup or anything, and go, we got to have Kenny Pickett. Because what was the question when the Browns traded for Kenny Pickett? Why would they want Kenny Pickett? Yeah, same thing with a lot of teams. Especially if you've already got a draft that you've been through. Other free agents have been signed. These teams would probably go with their other guys or with their rookies. When it comes to Joe Flacco, what are you giving up for a 40-year-old guy? You're not giving up much. So I'll see what I have with the 4 guys. Again, my issue has always been clear. You're trying to start to win football games, which some people go, well, it's a tank season. That's why you just cut Obo Okoronkwo. You probably cut Oko Okoronkwo. I don't think it's just because of money. A lot of people brought up money. They got the money. I think that they want to see what Isaiah McGuire has, and you got to see what he can do in football games. And I think they want to see what, finally, if Alex Wright is healthy, if he can help out. And they do like that Cam Thomas guy. They do like him. So we'll see what they do with it. And you got Joe Troyansky. Yeah. Troyanka. Yeah. Sorry.
What did you say,
Shinsky? I'm not sure.
Owen, can we get a replay on that?
I'm a football guy, all right? I'm not a name guy. I'm a football guy, damn it. But I think that I don't think it's a tanking thing per se. I think that they were like, well, we can get as good an output and we can give these guys the reps and the experience and the play. But when it comes to the quarterbacks, it's like, all right, I still want to start Joe Flacco for the season. I imagine they're probably going to go with Kenny Pickett and upset me. Okay? I'm used to them upsetting me. I'd rather go with Joe Flacco because I want to do right by the vets that are in the locker room. You got plenty of games where you can see what guys have. I at least want to try to start the season on the right foot. But then again, I should say, I don't know how much of a good job Kenny Pickett's doing in that locker room to become a leader in that locker room and a logical guy that can take over the starting reins of this football team. I'll have to be open-minded coming up next month, Daryl.
I don't know how any of these guys can be a leader in the locker room, but this has been a problem that this franchise has had to deal with for years and years and years. I'd say the last quarterback that you could argue was a leader in the locker room or tried to be a leader in the locker room was Baker. But then you get into the quality of the leader in the locker room.
But in that 2021 season, they lost that faith in him.
Yeah.
For a million different reasons. Well, not for a million different reasons, but for 2 very big reasons. They lost that faith in him in that year, and it's cost us ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, to your point, look, you can sell Joe Flacco to the fans. I don't know that you can really sell Kenny Pickett to the fans. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know starting either one of these quarterbacks. I've said it's football malpractice to put one of these rookies out there week 1. I just don't think that's the way to go. I don't think either one of these guys is NFL starter ready just yet. But when you watch both these rookies on the practice field, Ken, you see why the Browns were interested in both players. Yeah. You see the raw talent.
Yeah.
But the key word there is raw. It's raw talent. It's not polished by any stretch of the imagination. That goes for Dillon Gabriel just as much as it goes for Shedeur Sanders. And look, the odds seem to favor that Kenny Pickett would be the guy. Honestly, I don't know what they see in Kenny Pickett. I watched him for 2 years with the Steelers. Now, the excuse has been, well, he had Matt Canada as the OC, and they couldn't run that guy out of Pittsburgh fast enough, and that was an unmitigated disaster. And if you look at Kenny, he's got 6-7 comeback victories so with the Steelers there in the fourth quarter, so he seems to have something there, even though the first 3 quarters were an abomination. I just, I don't know if there's going to be any tangible answer to come out of the quarterback situation this season.
My problem with Kenny Pickett, and I'll find out this year. Maybe they'll hopefully prove me wrong on this. Is the whole, like, we've had a couple of people on, and they've brought up, how Mike Tomlin lied, the quote lied to Kenny Pickett about the offense. And Matt Canada doesn't know what he's doing as an offensive play caller. Again, there's a couple of guys in this league or in football in general that if you put something out to them about social media, you will get a list of coaches lining up on your phone to rip that guy. And the list is short, but Matt Canada's on that list.
Him and Hugh Jackson.
I said something nice about Matt Canada one time, and my phone lit up, and I go, good God almighty. He is not well liked amongst a lot of coaches for a plethora of reasons we don't have to get into. But what I wonder about, and this could be true coaching malpractice over on there, he was a first-round pick. You're supposed to do what you can to support a first-round pick. You've made a declaration to the entire world you believe in this man in a first-round pick. I know there's a lot of fans that want to pretend like we've made this great declaration to the world that we love Shedeur Sanders. Day 3 is day 3. I don't give a damn what anybody says. When you take a guy like that, you've made this declaration. So I'm assuming right now, or I've assumed for a while, that he didn't do himself any favors. He didn't help out. And I know they ripped him out the door, and there's been plenty of people to try to dispel that. I'm willing to still give him a chance. I don't hate Kenny Pickett. I don't think he's going to be a very great quarterback, but I don't hate the guy. But I go into the assumption that it's their job to know more than I do. And some of the stuff with the OTAs, it's fun to talk about. I find it to be kind of fun and kind of entertaining, but I leave it there. There's stuff that they're looking for that we think we're looking for, and it's not what they care about. They care about, when we did OTA stuff, they care about the nomenclature, what they know, what they can say, what they can repeat as far as the play call, not sending guys to the wrong spots, the proper coverages or the proper schemes for the offensive lineman. That's what they care about. That's why this whole stuff, he was 7 for 9 and 2 touchdowns. They don't give a bleep about any of that.
No, they don't.
Look at his mechanics from where it was. They're trying to work on mechanics. I don't think you can just fix mechanics in 4 months, especially when you don't have a pass rush coming after you. So you got to dip them in hot water again, in the words of Sam Rutigliano. You won't be able to do that until the preseason games. Those things are so far less. The one with the completions, you want to be able to complete passes, but you want to make sure that they're running the right routes. And that's where it comes into the know how able you are to pick it up, how likely you are to pick it up after working at it. Can you do it? Can you do it where they can trust you to try to do it on your own? That's what they care about at that juncture. And when we get into training camp, like Daryl's right, there's going to be a whole lot of things that they work on at the same time because they have so many different guys that they have to get reps to. And you don't want to just have Shedeur Sanders throw into the back end of your wide receiver room because your wide receiver room ain't that great to begin with.
Or just standing around for half the practice.
You don't want him standing around for half the practice. So there will be times where Shedeur Sanders throws to Jerry Jeudy, and there will be times where he throws to the kid from Kent State. There will be times where Kenny Pickett does the same, and I'm sure Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel do the same. So I'm going to be open-minded about all of them as best I possibly can. There's guys I do want to see do well. I'm dead on. I want to see Shedeur Sanders be able to someday take the job, but I'm not going to say he doesn't have to earn it. He has to earn it. I don't think I have to see him in a football game at the end of the season. So many people get confused by that, and I think you're as desperate as any team is for a starting quarterback. If they can't earn the job, then they've told you without you having to see anything that guy sucks and is not an NFL quarterback. You can't play for this team. You're not a starting caliber quarterback at all in the NFL. I want to see him because I think he could be a big star. I think it's a great story, and I don't mind Shedeur Sanders whatsoever. I got to see it first. I'll be open-minded towards all of them. Yeah, there's guys I'm rooting for, but I'll give them all a chance. Joe, even in as much as I want to start the season, I'll tell you this, Joe, or Daryl, as much as I want to see Joe start the season, I think he has less of a chance. And I want to give him less of a chance. He's 40 years old. So what's my future? I don't have one with him.
Look how they handled the mandatory minicamp. I'm sorry. First 2 days, Dylan Gabriel got the reps early on. the first reps of the team periods. And then on day 3, they're like, okay, Joe, go ahead and go out there.
So there's some guy off East 55th at a stoplight right now going, well, why do you want to give Joe a chance in the first place? Well, if they do believe in Joe and they do win some games, and this is more than likely, not very unlikely going to happen. If they do win some games, well, then you see how far you can go with Joe. If you find yourself in a position where you're winning football games and heading to the playoffs and none of these other 3 guys, it's not like it's a first-round guy. There's a difference in the expectation there. If none of these other 3 guys can unseat him, then, yeah, go with Joe for the rest of the year. And we'll figure it out after that. It's the same way the Steelers do it, except they're guaranteeing Aaron Rodgers as a starter. But you're going to go as far as you can with the old guy. And then when the wheels do naturally fall off, because they will, okay, then let's see what we got with the other ones, with Kenny or with the Pups, and we'll see what they do.